Welcome to our deep dive into The Little Prince. But what I'm curious about is what this seemingly simple story has to say to you as an adult.
It's amazing how The Little Prince can resonate so differently at different stages of life. What might have felt like a whimsical adventure in childhood can reveal profound insights about human nature and the search for meaning as we grow older.
Exactly. So we're not just rereading a children's book, we're going on a journey to rediscover its wisdom and see how it connects to your life today. What can The Little Prince teach us about finding meaning and connection in a complex world? That's the core question I think we
Yeah,
should explore.
I like that. And right from the start, the book invites us to consider the power of perspective. Here's a stranded pilot, a man of logic and reason, encountering this extraordinary little prince from a tiny asteroid. It throws his entire worldview into question.
Yeah, it's like he's suddenly forced to see the world through a child's eyes again. And it's both fascinating and unsettling for him. The boa constrictor drawing is the perfect example. As a child, the pilot drew a boa constrictor that had swallowed an elephant, but all the adult saw was a hat.
Right.
It's almost as if their grown-up perspective had blinded them to the wonder and
Yeah.
possibility of the image.
And that's something I think we can all relate to, right? How often do we let our preconceived notions limit our understanding or miss the magic that's right in front of us? I find myself thinking, are there boa constrictors in my own life that I'm mistaking for hats? What would happen if I shifted my perspective, embraced a little more childlike curiosity?
That's a powerful question for all of us to consider.
Hmm.
It makes me wonder, too, about the whole concept of taming that the fox introduces. On the surface, it seems straightforward, building connections and taking responsibility for those relationships. But I can't help but feel there's more to it than that.
There's definitely a depth to that concept that's worth exploring. The fox's famous line, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye," suggests that taming goes beyond simply spending time with someone. It's about genuine emotional investment, a willingness to be vulnerable, to see beyond the superficial.
You've got me thinking about how that idea plays out in our modern world. It seems like taming could be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's about deepening relationships, but on the other hand, couldn't it be a form of control or even manipulation in the
Yeah.
wrong hands? Where's the line between healthy and unhealthy taming?
That's a great point. Perhaps true taming, as the fox intended it, requires mutual respect and a willingness to allow the other person their freedom, even as we build that connection. It's not about possession or control, but about fostering a genuine reciprocal bond.
And maybe it requires us to confront our own fears and insecurities. After all, the pilot is hesitant to be tamed by the little prince at first.
Mhm.
He's afraid of getting hurt, of being disappointed.
Absolutely. There's vulnerability inherent in any genuine connection. And I think that's part of what makes the little prince's journey so compelling. He's constantly pushing himself outside of his comfort zone, exploring new worlds and encountering different aspects of human nature.
Speaking of which, his journey through the different planets is like a crash course in the human condition. Each planet represents a different aspect of ourselves, both the good and the bad. We see the king consumed by power, the businessman obsessed with wealth, the vain man craving admiration. It's almost like a satirical commentary on society.
It's as if Saint-Exupéry is holding up a mirror to humanity, forcing us to confront our own follies and foibles. And for you, as a learner who values knowledge and growth, I'm curious, which of these planets resonates with you the most? Which ones represent challenges or opportunities you've encountered in your own pursuit of understanding?
That's a tough one. There's so many to choose from. The planet of the geographer immediately comes to mind. I find it fascinating because he spends all his time mapping and classifying the world, but never actually experiencing it firsthand. He relies on explorers for information, but doesn't venture out himself. I can't help but wonder if that's a trap we often fall into as learners, getting so caught up in acquiring knowledge that we forget to live and experience life fully.
It's a real danger, isn't it? The geographer represents the intellectual side of learning, but he's missing the emotional, the experiential. And without those elements, knowledge can feel dry and sterile, disconnected from the richness of life.
Exactly. And then there's the planet of the lamplighter, who diligently lights and extinguishes his lamp every minute as his planet spins faster and faster. It's almost as if he's become a slave to routine, trapped in a cycle that's lost its meaning. I can see how someone driven by a thirst for knowledge and achievement like yourself might relate to that feeling of being caught up in a whirlwind of activity, always striving for the next goal without stopping to ask why.
It's a struggle I know all too well. The lamplighter reminds us that even the most noble pursuits can become empty rituals if we lose sight of our purpose. And I think that's one of the key themes Saint-Exupéry is grappling with throughout the book. How do we find meaning and purpose in a world that's constantly demanding more of us?
That's a question that I'm sure resonates with many of our listeners. And it's a question that the little prince himself grapples with as he journeys through the universe. But it seems like his own tiny planet, asteroid B612, holds the key to his understanding of meaning and purpose.
Absolutely. His world is centered around his love for his rose, a symbol of how true meaning comes from connection, from caring for something beyond ourselves.
And it's a reminder that even in the vastness of the universe, the simplest things can hold the most profound meaning. It's about finding joy in watching sunsets, listening to the wells sing, and appreciating the fragrance of a single rose.
Those simple pleasures are what ground the little prince, even as he encounters the complexities and distractions of the other planets. He understands the beauty of simplicity, something that's easy to lose sight of in our modern world.
Speaking of losing sight of things, let's move on to explore the little prince's arrival on Earth, where he encounters a whole new set of challenges and insights.
Earth, the little prince's final destination, seems like the most complex planet of all. Instead of a single dominant trait, he finds a dizzying array of human experiences, and it's not easy for him to navigate.
It's like he's landed on a place that's simultaneously vast and empty. He finds deserts, mountains, cities, but what really throws him off are the people. Billions of them. Yet he feels a profound sense of loneliness.
He encounters the snake, a creature of deception and temptation, who speaks in riddles and offers a dangerous shortcut back to his world. Then there's the echo, a hollow reflection of his own voice offering no real connection or companionship.
And then he stumbles upon a garden filled with thousands of roses, just like his own back on asteroid B612. It's a moment that shatters his perception of his rose's uniqueness and leaves him feeling utterly disillusioned.
Imagine how devastating that must have been for him. He'd believed his rose was special, one of a kind, and suddenly he's confronted with the reality that there are countless others just like her.
Yeah. It makes me think about how we as learners can sometimes feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information and perspectives in the world. It's easy to get lost in the noise and lose sight of what truly matters to us.
That's such an insightful connection. The Little Prince's experience in the Rose Garden highlights the tension between knowledge and experience. Intellectually, he now knows that his rose isn't unique in a botanical sense, but it's the bond he's forged with her, the time and care he's invested that gives her true meaning.
Yeah, it's like the old adage, you don't truly know something until you've experienced it. And that experience doesn't have to be grand or extraordinary. It can be as simple as tending a garden, watching a sunset, or connecting with another human being.
Exactly. And speaking of connection, his encounter with the pilot is pivotal. The pilot is initially preoccupied with fixing his plane, a very practical concern, but he gradually opens himself up to the little prince's world of imagination and wonder.
Yeah, it's almost as if the little prince reawakens something in the pilot that he'd forgotten, that childlike sense of curiosity and openness to the unknown. Their relationship is a reminder that genuine connection can arise in the most unexpected places.
And that sometimes the most profound learning happens not through books or lectures, but through shared experiences and heartfelt conversations. Their search for water together in the vast desert becomes a metaphor for their shared journey of discovery.
The desert, a symbol of emptiness and desolation, is also a place of hidden beauty and resilience. Remember what the little prince says, what makes the desert beautiful is that somewhere it hides a well. It's a reminder that hope and meaning can be found even in the most challenging circumstances.
And it's in the midst of that challenging landscape that the little prince shares some of his most insightful observations. He talks about the stars, the desert, and well, not just as physical entities, but as symbols of something deeper.
Yeah, he's inviting the pilot and us as readers to look beyond the surface to see the world with new eyes. And I think that's what makes The Little Prince so enduring. It's not just a story. It's an invitation to explore our own inner landscapes and connect with the deeper truths of the human experience.
But their time together, like all things in life, is fleeting. The little prince, realizing he must return to his own planet, faces a difficult decision.
It's a bittersweet moment. He's gained knowledge and experience through his travels, but he's also learned the painful truth that growth often comes at a cost.
He must leave behind the pilot, the one friend who truly understood him, and face the unknown journey back to his rose.
And in a way, isn't that what we all must do at some point? Leave behind the comfort and familiarity of what we know and venture into the unknown. But the little prince doesn't leave the pilot empty-handed.
He gives him a profound gift, a renewed sense of wonder, a reminder to cherish the simple things and the promise that his laughter will forever echo in the stars.
It's a beautiful and heartbreaking image that lingers long after the story ends.
And that ending with the pilot still wondering if the sheep ate the rose is so powerful. It leaves us with a sense of both closure and ambiguity.
It invites us to consider the possibility that some questions don't have definitive answers. And maybe that's okay. Maybe it's the act of questioning, of searching for meaning, that's most important.
And I think that's something that resonates particularly strongly with learners, the idea that the pursuit of knowledge is an ongoing journey, not a destination.
It's about embracing the mystery, the unknown, and allowing ourselves to be transformed by the experience.
And that transformation, as The Little Prince so beautifully demonstrates, can be as simple as learning to see the world through the eyes of a child, to appreciate the beauty of a single rose, or to find connection in the vastness of the desert.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into The Little Prince, I'm left with this final thought-provoking question for you. If the Little Prince were to visit your world today, what would you find most surprising? It's a fascinating question to ponder, isn't it? What would this innocent, curious being from another world make of our modern society?
I imagine he'd be both amazed and bewildered by our technology, our fast-paced lives, and our often contradictory values.
Would he see our world as a place of wonder and opportunity? Or would he be saddened by the ways we've lost touch with the simple truths he holds dear?
Perhaps he'd be most surprised by our obsession with things, our constant striving for more, even when we already have so much. He comes from a world where a single rose, a single sunset holds infinite value.
And he might question our reliance on logic and reason, our tendency to dismiss anything that can't be measured or quantified. Remember how frustrated the pilot was at first by the Little Prince's seemingly nonsensical questions and pronouncements?
It took time for the pilot to open himself up to a different way of seeing the world, a way that embraced imagination and intuition alongside logic. And that's a lesson I think many of us could benefit from.
Especially as learners. It's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of knowledge, to prioritize facts and figures over feelings and experiences. But the Little Prince reminds us that true understanding comes from engaging with the world with our whole hearts, not just our minds.
He teaches us to look beyond the surface, to ask the why behind the what, and to never lose sight of the wonder and mystery that surrounds us.
And perhaps even more importantly, the Little Prince would remind us of the power of connection. He came to Earth searching for answers, but what he found was friendship, love, and a sense of belonging.
He discovered that even in a vast and often confusing world, it's our relationships that give our lives meaning and purpose. And that's a truth that transcends time and place.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Little Prince, I want to turn the question back to you. What would you want to share with the Little Prince if he were to visit your world today?
What wisdom, what beauty, what simple joys would you offer to this curious and gentle soul from another world?
What would you want him to take back to his tiny planet, his beloved rose, as a reminder of the best of humanity?
Let those questions linger in your heart as you go about your day. Let them guide your actions, your interactions, and your ongoing journey of discovery.
Because in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming, the Little Prince offers a timeless message of hope, love, and the enduring power of the human spirit. And those are lessons worth carrying with us always.